A pinch for a pinch is pretty great. This is the 6th episode of the 4th season of Full House. This is directed by Zwick, and as always there will be spoilers from now. As I talk about the episode, I'll go through things chronologically and share some thoughts. Well, actually, I'll go through the main narrative chronologically, but I'll talk about the story with Stephanie and Kimmy, and then I'll go in with the main story about Michelle. But it actually starts off with Michelle and Joey playing hockey in the house, and it's a nice fun way to start things off. Kimmy has written the horoscopes for the school newspaper. This ties in really nicely with the previous episode where Kimmy was, well, I won't say exactly what happens, just in case for some reason you haven't seen that episode, but a previous episode mentioned the school newspaper, so it's nice to have a bit of continuity there. And she tricks Stephanie into thinking the horoscope is correct by slipping $1 in her pocket. That's her good fortune. However, she does confirm pretty much immediately that it was a trick. But then Stephanie becomes a bit paranoid because everything else starts to happen. And there are some bad things in her horoscope for that day, so she's really concerned. And I actually thought this was quite thought-provoking because she ultimately decides to wear a helmet and protective gear so that nothing bad can happen to her. And I kind of thought about this a little bit and how if we know the future, it might stop us enjoying the present. And this is not a unique thought. There are plenty of theories about how we might react differently if we had knowledge of the future. And of course, it begs the question, if you could find out about your future, would you want to know? And I feel like most of us would say yes if it was going to be good news. But what if it's bad news? How much would that affect our lives today? I feel like most people would drastically change how they went about things. If, for example, in their future they get hit by a bus, most people would avoid roads at all costs. So I actually found that to be quite thought-provoking, but mostly very entertaining. The main narrative focuses on Michelle, and Jesse has to take her to preschool. It's meant to be Joey helping out at preschool, but he ate a toffee apple and had to go to the dentist. So Jesse reluctantly goes after some manipulation from Michelle, which was adorable. And he sings an Elvis-fied version of Farmer in the Dell, which is pretty cool. And then it's cracker time. The children get their snack, Michelle gets an elephant cracker, but unfortunately, one of the kids, Aaron, steals her elephant cracker. Aaron is played by Miko Hughes, and she's obviously not happy about this, so she goes and tells Jesse, and Jesse says, well, take his and eat his, which, to be honest, I don't necessarily think is the worst advice in the world. I'm saying this as somebody who isn't a parent, not a teacher, but I feel like if somebody takes your food, you can take theirs. I don't know, maybe I'm horrendously wrong about that, but that part of the advice I don't think was too bad. However, Aaron then pinched Michelle, which is awful, and Michelle immediately should have said, he pinched me, but instead Michelle took the advice that Jesse gave her about the cracker and pinched him back. And it's actually very entertaining to see the two children pinching each other and screaming exceptionally dramatically. It's very, very well done. Brilliant performances from both of them. And the teacher says that they both need to have a time out. And Jesse says, well, this isn't fair. He pinched her first. And Jesse says, maybe Michelle shouldn't be at this school. Honestly, I feel like, I've heard stories of parents wanting to pull their children out of the school because things don't go their child's way. I definitely think that was an overreaction from Jesse. And we then go back to the house, and Danny's already there, and Jesse comes in with Michelle, and she's been to the zoo. And yes, that's an educational day out, but maybe not the best way to handle things. And things then escalated for Michelle, but also it became very funny for me as a viewer because Stephanie took something of hers and Michelle pinches her. Obviously, Michelle has taken this pinching to heart, and she gets quite evil at one point because she turns back to Stephanie and she's got her fingers in the air in a little pinch sign and says, give it back or you're getting it again, which is funny and sinister. Obviously, in real life, that's awful, and she shouldn't be going down that path of threatening violence every time she doesn't get her own way, even though it was her thing that Stephanie took. But watching it as a viewer, very, very funny. And then she has a lovely moment with Jesse where Jesse tells her, first of all, that he was wrong. I really support adults telling children that they were wrong. I never, ever liked the idea that adults are perfect and children have to do everything that adults say and that adults are right all of the time, because that's nonsense. And I think that that causes a lack of trust. If you see an adult doing something wrong, but then they don't admit they're doing it wrong, but the child knows it's wrong, I just feel like it's going to create an awkward relationship with a lack of trust. But with Jesse, we see him admitting that his decision was the wrong decision. And I think that's very admirable. And he told Michelle she should really use her words, which was great. And she's still Michelle, though. She's still very cheeky. And Danny comes in and tells her, you're going back to preschool tomorrow. And she says, okay, but it's Saturday, which I thought was an absolute delight. So I really enjoyed this episode. I think there are really great takeaways, but it's very entertaining as well. Really thought-provoking in a lot of ways. And ultimately, a really great episode. A pinch for a pinch is pretty great. And I'm sure it's an episode I will always really enjoy.